Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rokture Ramblings, where I discuss topics around digital marketing, marketing technology, and marketing operations for the financial services industry. My name is Fernando Pena, and I'm the founder of Rokture, where I can help you take advantage of the digital channel. And today's topic is one that, again, I get asked about quite often, and that has to do with personalization. But the bigger question is, what can personalization do for you? So today, what I'm going to cover is what is personalization, why personalize, what are the potential pitfalls, and also where do I start? So, what is personalization? And that's a pretty broad term. So, I'm just going to break it down into what it means from a marketing and a customer experience perspective. So, it's really the process of providing an experience that is optimized for that individual session or customer. If you think about, for example, a branch visit, oftentimes that teller will make sure that that experience and that discussion and conversation and that transaction is very specific to that point in time with that individual. On digital, this is sometimes difficult to replicate, but with personalization, you can get pretty close to it, and that's the reason that we do it. It also offers a point of differentiation with your competitors. So if all of your competitors are basically offering that same generic plain vanilla experience, and you're offering personalization to a level that is actually acceptable and really expected by a customer, then that will give you an advantage over your competitors for various reasons that we'll get into a little later. There's the increased likelihood that your message is going to resonate with your audience. So personalization really does help to make that a reality. And then it helps to create consistency between digital and the other channels. So I mentioned the branch example. That's one where you want your branch experience and your digital experience to really be closely aligned. And with personalization, that really does help to make that happen. So, what I thought I'd do now is to go ahead and provide some examples of where personalization might be relevant. So, I'm not picking on Wells Fargo by any means, but I just wanted to use them as an example here. And so, what you'll see is that my arrows are pointing to areas that can potentially be personalized. Now, granted, this is just a public session, and there are some limitations in what you can personalize because there's not really a lot of information available to the systems to do personalization. But let's assume that you do have some data that is able to be captured and you're in a secured session. In that case, then you have the ability to, like, for example, modify this top menu so that it's prioritized based on the specific needs of that individual. The bottom here where it says good afternoon, obviously that's based on the local time zone, but you have the ability again to change that greeting so that it's something that maybe resonates more with that individual. One that often is forgotten as well is that the buttons themselves, so even the color of the button might create more of a response based on that individual's preferences. So maybe they prefer a green. Now, I know that you have to observe the brand standards, but there might be some other colors in the brand palette that are more likely to create and generate a response than the standard color that is being utilized here. And maybe instead of using the word sign on, maybe it's log in. And again, that's just a point of differentiation. On the right here, we're looking at the offer that is being provided, and that offer, not only the offer itself, but the language within it. So you've got to think about each of these as being modules where you have maybe a headline module, a body of the offer module, and then maybe a visual representation. So all of these can and should be personalized. Same thing on this bottom, on the center row here. Each of these, same thing applies as the top here. So if I log in, I may see a completely different set of offers than if someone else logs in. And then again, I'm here showing that everything is likely to or can be personalized if that is something that you're looking to do, including this imagery here, maybe even the background, and that's why I'm using this arrow here. So there's a lot of different options, a lot of variations and permutations, and all of this really is under that category, personalization. Next, we'll look at an email from PenFed. And this is one where, again, this is an offer that's coming through, but again, instead of a web page, we're looking at an email. So some of the same tactics and principles apply here, where this offer, maybe this cashback honors advantage card is not relevant to this individual. So you have to make sure that it's the right product or service. The language is something that can be modified, as well as the icons, the text under the icons. The read more, same thing applies in terms of the language around the call to action, and also the color that is being utilized. So all of these same things, regardless of whether you're on a website or you're on some sort of a marketing offer or a push tactic, those are all applicable when it comes to personalization. So the question is, why personalize? I've brought up that there's many different options and tactics that can be utilized in order to be able to personalize that experience. But the reasons why we do it is because it does create a sense of familiarity. And so what that means is that now, instead of being seen as something that is completely foreign or irrelevant to that individual, it creates that sense of, okay, they understand me and these are relevant to me. And that comes into my second point here, relevancy. So this one's probably the most important because if you are positioning or presenting irrelevant offers or language to your customers and prospects, it just goes in one ear and out the other, or one eye and out the other, wherever eyes goes. So with that, you want to make sure that you are presenting relevant content to them, and personalization does help that. It allows you now to create more of a less of a sales pitch and more of a consultative type of discussion. So you're presenting that this is in their best interest instead of saying, buy this, buy this. So with all of that, I believe, and I have seen figures that show that it does increase customer satisfaction. And along with that, then you see a decrease in attrition. So all of these help to create longer lasting relationships, deeper relationships, and hopefully more revenue and growth on the part of your portfolio. So of course I can't use the word pitfall without using a screenshot of the old 80s game that I spent a lot of time playing. But the first one here is use first party data. So I received marketing material the other day that said, hello, Ferdo. And it just cracked me up and instantly turned me off to whatever it is that they were trying to present to me. They forgot an entire syllable of my name, so because of that, I'm completely consumed with that in my head instead of thinking about their offer. Now, obviously, I didn't report that information because I would never put that as my first name, but somewhere along the line, they gathered that information and they decided to make it a primary part of their personalization. So this is a huge no-no. If you're not sure that that data is 100% accurate, it's probably better not to use it. It's better now to present an offer that is maybe more generically worded to something that you're more certain of, whether it's their occupation, an affinity that they may have, but don't use a first name that is collected, or a last name, even for that matter, from a third party. Because if it's inaccurate, then you just basically wiped away that opportunity with that individual. Use contextual personalization as a fallback. So instead of using my first name, if they weren't sure, then they should have used something according to maybe my where I live or what they're trying to position to me that is related to what I might be searching for. The next thing is avoid that creepy personalization. So we all can think about the times where we talk about something, we open up our phone, and bam, there's an advertisement for it. So that creeps people out a lot of times because they think that they're being spied on. So there may be a lot of information that is at your disposal, but be careful about how you personalize those experiences because if it seems a little too intrusive, that might also turn off your potential audience as well. So there's a sort of balance that has to be played here when it comes to being proactive, but also being very conscious of the fact that privacy is very important to many people, and they don't want you to. They don't want to assume that you are making use of their information for your own gains. Use A B testing and control groups to track success. I'll get into this a little bit more on a future video, but this is really important where you have to create variations of what it is that you're doing. And you also need to hold back some of your audience to make sure that your tests are successful and that they're not just not, you're not seeing success that is as a result of something else that might be taking place instead of the treatment that you are providing to them. Also, don't over personalize. So don't look at every single, although I did go over those materials earlier where I said that you can personalize every single bit of it. But it's best to probably not overdo this in the beginning because there's going to be so many permutations, it becomes harder to track. So start off easy, but and slowly and personalize certain things. And then once you gain confidence and you see the results of what's taking place and where you have some improvements, then you add some additional components. So, where do you start on something like this? So, it goes back to what I've always said, which is determine the goals and objectives of your organization. Um, you have to make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to push is in alignment with what the organization needs to get done. The next thing is develop your strategy and your approach. So, how are you going to utilize personalization? Develop this in a way where it's in alignment with other tactics, and make sure that it's consistent with messaging and the approach that's taking place throughout the organization. Build up your infrastructure. So obviously, there's going to be some technology that's needed here to make this a reality. AI is a big one here, and I've done a video on that one that you can look for. And so AI and also just decisioning in general will be very important in this personalization effort. Otherwise, what you're doing is that you're running a lot of A, B, C, or D testing, and as a result of that, it becomes very manually and resource intensive. Test, test, test. That's always a mantra of mine. So just try different things. You can separate audiences or maybe take a random sample and try to apply a tactic to them, see if it works. If it doesn't, then not a lot is lost there. But with these tests, you'll be able to move on to the next thing, which is to refine your approach. And this is a continuous type of action. This isn't something that is once done and done. Really, you're looking at just refining this over time and continuing to do so for all of eternity. So, if this sounds like it's a little too much for you to even embark upon, please feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss your particular use case and see where we might be able to apply some personalization and develop a strategy on your behalf. All my contact information is on this slide here, so feel free to reach out to me. And again, thank you so much for your time today, and we will talk the next time. Have a good one. Bye bye.